Hey guys, HackerSploit here, back again with another video, and I know it's been a while since I've said that, and I do apologize. As you know, we've been having some issues with YouTube, but luckily the ban is now over, and I'm back, and I thought why not get started with a video that a lot of you have been requesting, and that is how to use Shodan for penetration tests, or how to use Shodan in penetration tests, for reconnaissance. Alright, so let's get started. Now, if you've already watched my previous Showdown video, you know that I covered it on a very basic level. However, I'm going to be explaining things a little bit more here, and how to use various filters and how to incorporate it in tools like Metasploit, for your penetration tests in regards to reconnaissance. Alright, now I just want to explain a few things in regards to how Showdown works, because I didn't explain it as well as I should have. Alright, so the first thing that you might be having in your mind, if this is your first time hearing about Showdown, is what exactly is Shodan? Well, Shodan is a search engine that allows you to search for devices or computers connected or publicly exposed onto the internet. Alright, now the device types I'm referring to are computers, servers, webcams, IP webcams, printers, security cameras, refrigerators, embedded devices, and you may already know of a term that is used to refer to all of these devices. And if you check out the Shodan.io website, right on the homepage, they actually explain that to you. The search engine for the Internet of Things. All right, so Shodan is the world's first search engine for the interconnected interconnected devices. Right, so essentially any device that can connect to the internet and that is publicly exposed can be accessed by Shodan if it is indexed. All right, and that is where the whole idea of a search engine comes into play. So typically normal search engines, what they would do is they spider, or they have spiders or crawlers, and an example of a search engine is Google or DuckDuckGo. They usually have bots called spiders or crawlers that go through your web page, all right, and build an index of that web page and then list it in the search results based on a specific keyword. And of course your ranking is determined by various factors like your sitemap, good SEO, etc. However, Shodan works in a very different way. All right, now Shodan does not spider like traditional search engines. It instead searches for ports and performs banner grabbing on them, and then stores all of these results for us to access. Now, the reason I say it's a little bit different than any other search engine is you must understand that these results are constantly being added upon, and again, given the fact that there are tons of devices and results that we can get with Shodan, they are stored in a database for us. Now, given that we have this huge amount of data, how do we go through it, or how are we able to find what we are looking for as penetration testers? And that's where Shodan's huge filters, or hugely important filters, come into play. All right, and I'll be explaining that in a second. All right, but before I do that, I realize that I get a lot of questions about banner grabbing, and to essentially explain what exactly is banner grabbing, how it works, and what protocols affect the different types of banners available. Right, so banner grabbing, simply put, can be explained by first of all understanding what a banner is in regards to software and computing. All right, now by default, a banner grabbing is usually very common in a client-server architecture. However, it is not exclusive, but it's good to understand it in that type of setup so that you can understand what I'm talking about. So what happens is a banner is usually sent to the client from the server, so that they can know how to configure themselves correctly, or to configure themselves to send requests. All right, so essentially a server sends the client a banner. All right, and this banner contains information that is useful to the client in configuring itself so it can communicate with the server. A good example of this, but it works in the complete opposite, is HTTP requests. All right, and when I say it works in the opposite, is the client sends an HTTP request to a particular web server, and what is included within the HTTP request? The banner. And what does the banner contain? The banner contains information like the browser that is being used, the WebKit that is being used, the HTTP version that is being used. So then it is sent to the server. Now the server says, okay, we got a client that is requesting a web page, but we need to send it with these so that it can be accessed by this particular browser. So if you're using an older version of Internet Explorer, it will send a web page that is compatible or that is most compatible with that WebKit. All right, so that is a very basic example of what a banner is. Now, banner grabbing in regards to penetration testing is mainly used by penetration testers to enumerate information like the operating system version of a server and the software versions for the services that are currently running. So for example, what version of FTP is running? Is it running a third-party piece of software? All of that stuff. All right, now that I've explained that, we can actually get moving. And I know that actually took a while. So let's talk about Shodan. Now, Shodan is sorted out really, really well. As you can see, I do recommend getting an account on Shodan. And if you do have the money to spare, you can get a business account or a student account. And that'll give you access to things like specific search filters, like vulnerability search filters that essentially allow you to search, for particular computers or devices affected by a particular vulnerability. All right, so let's talk about search filters. I'll go through the most important ones used in penetration testing. All right, now the first few that we're going to be taking a look at are based on the geographical location of particular servers and devices. All right, so we can start off with the country. All right, so if we want to search for devices, all devices currently available in a particular country, I can say country, and I use the colon and I use the country code. So for example, I can say country US. All right, so I can say country US, which is United States, and I hit enter, or I just hit search right over here. And what that is going to do is going to bring up all the computers, devices, webcams, all the IoT devices or servers, all the devices inside or in the United States. All right, so we'll give that a few seconds to load up the results. And of course, that is a very simple search filter. So you can see it's still loading the various statistics here. So we'll give that a few seconds. Now, right on the top, you can see it's sorted out really, really well. So we have things like exploits, maps, and images. We can also download the results and create a report if you are interested in generating a specific report based on an organization, which we'll take a look at shortly. So the total amount of results is we have right over here. You can see the number. So that's quite a lot of devices within America. You have the various top cities in which these devices belong to and are currently able to be accessed by anyone on the internet. So we have Mountain View, Los Angeles, Ashburn, Scottsdale, and New York. We have the top services. So we have HTTP, which is quite interesting to see that we have HTTP, not HTTPS up ahead. We have SSH, which is good. Let's see who they belong to, the organizations they belong to. We have Google Cloud, seems to have the most, and of course NNIC, or the Navy Network Information Center. The top operating systems are Linux version 3 and higher, Windows 7 or 8. We don't see Windows 10 here, which is a good and bad thing. We then have the top products. We have OpenSSH, Apache, HTTPD, and Nginx. So yeah, those are pretty much the most popular pieces of software right within the United States. Now, we can also use another geographical filter like the city. If we are in a particular country, we might want to specify a particular city. So for example, I can say city and I'll say New York, right? And of course, you can already see that I have that result. So I'll just type in New York here, New York. All right, then you can specify any city you want if you're just using Shodan for the first time. And I'll get into the awesome filters in a second, but I want to explain how you can string filters together. So within New York, in terms of ones that are currently exposed, you can see that we have one here that looks like, let's take a look. It's a web server here. And of course, it's running these various web-based technologies. So we have, this looks like it is a WordPress website, although I'm not sure. But you can see this is a computer blog, right? And you can click on it and it's giving us the host name, not the IP, but we get the IP right over here. And the ports that are running are port 80, port 443. And we can go to that particular IP. And of course, it's going to tell us that is a bad request. If you use HTTPS, it should load. But we can definitely tell that this is a WordPress website. So again, I'm just using a basic example. And that's how we use geographical filters like country and city. And of course, country is based on the country code, and the city you can specify with the words themselves. All right, so let's talk about various other things like services and software or operating systems. All right, so let's say I wanted to see how many Apache web servers are currently available on Shodan. So I can simply type in Apache and hit enter. Now remember, I can also type in the Apache version, but of course I can say, for example, Apache version 2. I can then, use all the versioning to find out what how the total amount of the total amount of Apache web servers with that particular version that are currently available that can be accessed. So you can see we have about 25,700,768. So United States, Germany, China, Japan, and France lead the table there. In terms of the versions of Linux they're running on, of course, we have Linux version 3 and higher and Linux version 2.6 and higher. All right, so that is how to use a specific version. Now, this is where we can take a look at exploits. Now, if I type for a specific operating system like Windows 10, which I'll get to in a second, I can potentially, I will be able to see all the devices, computers that currently running Windows 10 that are exposed and we're able to access on the Shodan database. And we can also see the available exploits for that particular software version or operating system version. So if I click, right now we're using Apache. So if I say exploits, it's going to list for me all the available Apache exploits. All right, so you have right over here the total amount of Apache exploits, which is about 1,408. The sources, which are mostly from ExploitDB and Metasploit. Remember, we haven't specified the version, so you can do that as well to narrow your search. We then have the platform, which is sorted in terms of PHP, which is essentially the execution. So PHP, Linux, Windows, JSP, the type. We have web apps, remote. We have a DOS exploits or a DOS script. Local exploits and exploit themselves are mainly exploiting the web server. So that is how to essentially navigate around exploits. Now, when we talk about using something like maps, we can open up maps, and this will essentially give us a geographical information system or a GIS that contains all the data, however plotted on a map, right? Or a geographical system. So we'll wait for that to process, and rightfully so. This is quite a large number of Apache servers running, so we'll give that a while to process. Now, as I said, that is essentially searching for a particular service or software version. So I can also search for an operating system. Now, when specifying an operating system, you need to specify it as like so. So you can type in OS, all right, and that is all lowercase, and we use the colon. We open up our quotation marks, and I can say something like Windows 10, and I will close that up right over here and hit search. All right, and that will bring up all the Windows 10 devices are currently available to be accessed around the world on Shodan. All right, so you can see the top amount of devices that we are currently able to access or are currently accessible on Shodan belong to Japan, Taiwan, the Russian Federation, United States, India, and the top organizations they belong to. This is now where things get interesting. You can see the organizations that have the most amount of that essentially have the most amount of outward-facing computers or computers that are exposed to the internet, publicly exposed to the internet, that is. So we have HiNet NTT, SoftBank. They might want to check this out. So you can, if you search for the organization SoftBank, you can see it gives us the filter right over here that we can use, which is organization SoftBank. So that is another filter that you can use. So for example, if I say Windows 10, all computers running Windows 10 that belong to Amazon. All right, so I can, oops, that is the wrong spelling here, Amazon. So all Windows 10 computers belonging to Amazon, and I hit search, you can see that belongs to that particular organization. So there you are, and most of them, there are very few actually, so United States, Singapore, India, and Ireland. We can also change, we can say, instead of using, we can say, let's see, we can type in Apache. Let's just see Apache, and the organization is Amazon. Let's see how many Apache servers currently exist, and there you are. You can get an idea in regards to how many Apache servers that currently belong to Amazon are currently exposed here, available on Shodan. All right, now that we've talked about operating systems and services, let's talk about ports, because this is where things get interesting. So for example, if I say country is going to be US, and I'm going to say operating system is going to be Windows 10, And I can say the SMB port. I want to specify that I want to specify to Shodan to only display the computers that have the SMB port currently running, which is port 445. However, we already know that the results will not change because pretty much all Windows 10 computers or all Windows computers are going to have the SMB port exposed. So if we hit search, you should see that we have about 3,440, which is a good thing. And now if I was targeting a particular SMB based exploit, or for example, if I was targeting the Bluekeep vulnerability, I would look for the remote desktop protocol, and I'll essentially use those various search filters to get the computers that are currently vulnerable to that particular exploit or vulnerability, or CVE for that matter. So there you are. Now if I remove the port 445, let's see if the results do change. So 3,440, and indeed they do not change, and that is pretty self-explanatory as I already mentioned. So for example, if I want to say country, US, and we'll get rid of operating system, I'll just say HTTPS. Let's look for HTTPS, all running on port 443. Very, very simple. Let's see if we have any services running with those particular search filters. Yes, we do. We have about 1,428,000, and we have an idea of the various companies. So this is usually used to identify companies that, of course, are that have their servers currently exposed. And this is not going to point to any particular vulnerability, but there you are. That's a great filter for you in case you're wondering. I'll be covering many others. So let's move on a little bit quicker now. I did cover network scanning. So those are pretty much the most important ones. Now let's talk about integration with Metasploit. All right, so I'll get back to you when I'm in Kali Linux. All right, so I'm back in Kali Linux, and I've launched my Metasploit console here, and we're running the latest version, and we're ready to get started. So what we can do is we can essentially search for Shodan here, and we're essentially looking for the auxiliary module here, which again is used for information gathering. So we're looking for the Shodan search auxiliary module right over here, which allows us to search with Shodan. So I'm just going to copy that. So I'm going to type in use, and we want to use this particular module. I'm going to hit enter, and we'll clear the screen right now, and we can show the options available to us, which is very important for this particular case. Now, many of you will be asking, why would you be using a tool like Metasploit or a tool like Maltego, which are both information gathering, which can both perform information gathering and reconnaissance? And that's because you might be using, you might be having a large project within Metasploit, and you want to utilize various Shodan search results, and you want them directly incorporated into the Metasploit database. You can do that right over here. So the first option is exactly that. You can add the search results to your database, and it's very important because if you search for things that aren't really relevant to the project, then you might be just storing random information. So in terms of the pages, so if you are saving it, or if you are getting you can increase the amount of pages. This is going to affect how much you save into the database and how many results are shown to you. You can also save it to a file. You can save it to a file. You can output your search results to a file. You have proxies, the regex. All right. So this is your search filters, which I'll show you in a second. You have your R hosts. This is of course the target address, or the target address range, which I've covered. And then you have the Shodan API key, which you require if you are going to utilize Metasploit with Shodan. So I'm just going to grab my key, and I'll get back to you when I have it. All right, so I've just set my API key, my Shodan API key right over here. And now the next option we need to take a look at is the query, which I've already set to Apache. And we need to take a look at the R hosts, which is very, very important. And your R hosts are going to be the target address range, or CIDR identifier. We're going to be focusing more on the target address range. So if you do have a target address range you're looking for particularly, you can specify it here. However, if we are scanning for all IP, any address within IPv4, any IPv4 address, we can essentially just use the range of 0.0.0.0, which essentially means all the IPs that are available, all IPv4 addresses that are available. So let's do that first. All right, so we're going to say set our hosts to 0.0.0.0, right? And I'm going to hit enter. And your query is the keyword you want to search for. So for example, I will use Apache. All right, so Apache is going to be my keyword, and let's see what we find. Now, remember the page, the max amount of pages that we've set to collect is only 1. So that means the results will be limited to 1 page. If you want to increase that, you can do so. I'm going to type in a run, and we can get started now. So we're going to give it a few seconds to get all the results. And immediately we can see that we get the results here. So we're going to take a look at it right over here. So we have the search results. So we have the IP and the port, and of course the host name, the country, and the host name, right? And the various ports in which they are configured on. So again, that was the keyword that I specified that I wanted to use. And again, you can, if you want to output it to a file, you can do so as well. Let us try something else. Let's say we're looking for IIS servers or Microsoft servers. So we can say set the query. So we will clear this, show options, and I will say set the query to IIS, sorry, and I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to just hit run. And again, this is going to display to us all the various IIS servers running. So there you are. All right, so fantastic. We were able to get all the various IIS servers running right over here. All right, so that's pretty much how to use Shodan in your penetration test. I've covered it on a very basic level, and again, this is strictly speaking for reconnaissance. I will be covering some of the other queries, search queries and search filters that you can use to get more specific type of results. So that's pretty much going to be it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comment section on my social networks or at the forum at hackersploit.org, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Peace.